According to Rebrickable, my LEGO collection is worth about $17,000. According to Brickset, which tracks condition, it's worth quite a bit less. And according to some of my friends and family, it is worth, well, pretty much nothing at all. But no matter what way you slice it, I have a lot of LEGO. Some built, some loose, some new sealed in box, and some missing. And I think it's high time to check in on my collection, see what I've got, and see what needs replacing after nearly 35 years of play and love. That's right, we're gonna be building every single minifigure in my LEGO collection. Let's do this. Amazingly, the very first LEGO Star Wars minifigure is also the oldest one still available with the Battle Droid. This was created in 1999, the version with just tan arms, and is still on store shelves today. I've done a couple upgrades to some of mine. If you've ever played the LEGO Star Wars Complete Saga, this is the backpack upgrade that they give the battle droids in that game, and I think it just makes them a little bit better, makes them especially a little bit more Phantom Menace oriented. In 2001, they came out with a variation that had a straight-facing arm, which allowed them to hold a blaster like this. This was a huge upgrade from the ones that used to hold them on the sides. If you've been collecting LEGO Star Wars for any length of time, you are going to have a million of these, I'm sure. Here are all of mine laid out side by side, and I have an army. Not from army building, like I do with Clone Troopers or, you know, any other kind of army buildable minifigure. These ones just show up. Here's a version that was released more recently. This is a version that has a clip on the back and is able to store a gun on its back. It's labeled in most inventory systems as different, but I mean, come on, look at them next to the others. They're the same. If you did have a shortage of droids and were willing to spend $160 in May of 2024, you got this 25th anniversary droid carrier, which featured this exclusive pilot battle droid. My next oldest and one of my strangest minifigures is this Darth Maul. He came from a pen, and you can see he has this hole that runs through his entire body. That's where the steel rod that made up the pen came through. He is identical pretty much to the original Darth Maul minifigure. He just has a weird little stud on top and a hole running through his whole body. He's an odd duckling, but I love him. From 2004 comes this reddish-brown version of Chewbacca. This is not the very original version, but I still think he's better than the new ones. Classic, but flawed. A fine addition to my collection. This 2002 Phase 1 Clone Trooper doesn't have a face, he just has a black head and a cutout to shine through the helmet. Equally iconic if you played the LEGO Star Wars Complete Saga video game is this Droideka build, the classic, and I kinda don't think it's ever been topped. This one uses all old brittle light gray, old brittle dark gray, and old brittle brown. So if you have any of these in your collection, please be very careful. Coming in the same set with those Droidekas to oppose them is this Obi-Wan Kenobi with his Padawan braid. This is from 2002, came out with the original wave of Phantom Menace sets, has that chrome lightsaber hilt, and oh, he's just beautiful. Honestly, it's very impressive how quickly LEGO Star Wars knocked out some of the droid builds very early in an almost perfect fashion. This is the Super Battle Droid from 2007, not the light blue one, but this is the pearl dark gray one, and they did come out with a new version recently, which looks like this. It's an upgrade for sure, but honestly, it didn't need one for a very long time. They did pretty well to start. Here's 2007's Snowtrooper. As you can see, mine has some discoloration on one of his arms, and I've lost the other ones. I don't know why so many minifigures from this era of LEGO Star Wars had this black head with the cutouts. The Clone Troopers, the Stormtroopers, well, the Stormtroopers didn't, but the Clone Troopers did. Here's another Clone Trooper as well. This is the Phase 2 Clone Trooper V-Wing pilot from 2005. The printing is almost perfect on him. The helmet is classic, and we'll see a bunch more clones with this helmet. But before we do, this is R7D4, the Astromech droid, Plo Koon's Astromech droid from Plo Koon's Starfighter. If you want to see more about this set, I've just recently done a really cool video on it. Check it out. But yes, clone troopers. I'm not really sure why their first solution was to create black heads and then just have them shine through the, or not shine through, but show through the visor. Here's a Phase 2 clone trooper. Here is a Phase 2 clone trooper, the 91st Mobile Reconnaissance Corps. This one's my personal favorite. This is the skin that I play as in Battlefront 2, and this is one of my earliest figures. And this is one of my greatest shames in my collection. This is General Grievous, the original one, and I have lost most of his pieces. The legs are pretty easy to replace, but that head, I know I have it somewhere. In the meantime, we'll just give him these legs, and I will try to buy the head and the cape off of Bricklink. Ouch. But at least we have a mostly complete Obi-Wan Kenobi to oppose him. This one's only missing his cape. Very simple, but, you know, this is in the era of what I consider to be classic LEGO Star Wars. Alas, that era couldn't last forever, and here we have the beginning of the Clone Wars era of LEGO Star Wars. Here's Anakin Skywalker, obviously. This era is hit or miss. Either you grew up with the big eyes that mimic the animation, or you hated them. And here's my next big shame. Here is Captain Rex, one of the most valuable, desirable LEGO Star Wars minifigures of all time, and I've lost his helmet. And nothing else is exclusive. Those arms you could just pop on a regular clone trooper body. So the only way that I can prove that I had this minifigure as a child is through the head and the gun. 2008's Asajj Ventress here, and she is missing her skirt, which is going to be very difficult to replace, but she does have these very cool custom lightsaber hilts. She's the only character, I guess, besides Count Dooku to have them. 2008's Plo Koon, you all know that I could talk about this one for hours. I have a whole video about it, same as the droid. If you want to see more about this Plo Koon and more about my thoughts, go check that out. And here he is, the most amassable LEGO Star Wars minifigure of all time. This is the 2008 Clone Wars era clone trooper. I only have 3 of these, but there are people who built massive armies of these. As you can see, they're very well loved. Here's one that I made custom that has pieces of a clone gunner and just some various pieces that I put together. I don't know where this one all came from, but all of these pieces make a lovely combo. And to lead them all is the clone trooper commander, I think, who has this black armor, and that's about it. You could put those on any clone trooper to give them a promotion. Thankfully, the Clone Wars eyes are limited to Clone Wars minifigures. Here's Luke from Return of the Jedi. He has a chrome lightsaber hilt and a trans neon green lightsaber blade. If you ask somebody what the most iconic LEGO Star Wars minifigure is, they'd probably either say a clone trooper or this Darth Vader. This is the Darth Vader of my childhood from 2008, and I like this helmet better than the new ones. One of mine is missing a cape, but the other one I upgraded with a black lightsaber hilt to be more movie accurate. Emperor Palpatine, should I make a nearly hour-long LEGO video showcasing all my LEGO Star Wars minifigures that took me months to film and edit and is going to come out way over date?
Do it.
Here's the 2009 Clone Wars era Phase 1 Clone Trooper Gunner, and oof. As you can see, a lot of the Clone Troopers were a lot of my favorite minifigures as a child, and they suffered the consequences. I'll be perfectly honest, the Assassin Droids are some of my least favorite minifigures in all of LEGO. Battle Droids inherently are just a bunch of pieces that get put together, but this feels worse. There's a clip there on top holding together a cone and some studs, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a minifigure. As opposed to these Battle Droids, which at least have this custom molded headpiece. These are the Rocket Droids. This is the Rocket Droid Commander specifically. They all have this jetpack on the back, and here are the regular Rocket Droids. You can see the difference between them is that the regular ones don't have the yellow point on the chest or on the head, and these came in like 2 sets, 2 or 3 sets, and I think they're really cool. They're a really interesting sub-variant of the Battle Droid. Here's more of the Assassin Droids. These ones are in silver, and like I said before, I don't feel like this is really a minifigure. They've kind of improved them over the years, but here's one that I tried to spruce up a little bit by giving a trans neon orange stud instead. I don't know if that makes it better. And here's one that, well, I simply ran out of metallic silver. So, there he is. The Senate Commando is one of the first minifigures that I bought off of Bricklink once I was an adult and collecting. I always wanted one as a kid, but they were really hard to find, coming only in the Venator, and then later the Battle Pack, but that was out of my time frame. And Celebration Luke Skywalker. This one came in a book and isn't particularly hard to find or particularly valuable, but it was the first like collectible minifigure, like collector's item that I felt like I had as a child. I was very proud of him. And here's the Han Solo that also came in a book. Same kind of deal. Not super rare, but it just felt like I was getting something that was like hard to find, hard to track down. One of my favorite things, ways to play with LEGO when I was a child, was to put all of the quote-unquote bad guys on one side and the quote-unquote good guys on the other. So this Imperial officer always went with the battle droids. Same with this Stormtrooper. This was the only Stormtrooper that I had when I was younger. And so I used to somehow imagine these fantasies in which the Stormtroopers and the battle droids teamed up, and the Clone Troopers and the Rebels were on the other side. We saw earlier the original Clone Trooper V-Wing pilot, and here is the more updated version. This one's from 2010. This one's a way cooler design in my mind, but you can see how similar the printing is on the chest and then on the back as well. It's really only the helmet design that's changed, and I do think that this one is for the better. Specifically because I had this 2-1B medical droid from when I was a child. I remember every time I saw him in the Clone Wars or in Star Wars in general, I was like, that's my favorite droid! And to be fair, he's pretty cool. Mandalorians are and always have been one of the coolest things about Star Wars, and they've always known this. My favorite Mandalorian has always been Jango Fett, so getting these as the Clone Wars was starting to delve into Mandalorian history was very cool. I felt like these were basically Jango Fett as far as I was concerned. This guy has custom blasters, and I think they look pretty good. I tend to stay away from custom blasters and custom anything these days, mainly because I used to be super into them, too much in my personal opinion, and it diluted a lot of what I see as value in my LEGO collection. And this one just has one wrong colored arm, but that's okay. We'll support him. R2-Q2 is an Imperial astromech droid that came out in the Imperial V-Wing in 2011, one of my favorite ships, and this was the first time that I realized a good droid could be evil. Alongside him in that Imperial V-Wing set is the Imperial V-Wing pilot. One of the things that I think is interesting about this is we just looked at the good guy version, the Republic one, and they're very similar. It's actually the same exact print, just on different colors of plastic. Front, back, helmets, faces, everything. For most Star Wars fans, the character that they love, despite him only getting like 10 minutes of screen time, has always been Boba Fett, traditionally. Mine is Savage Opress. I just think that a different colored Mandalorian, I mean, Darth Maul is awesome, and so getting one that's just a different color, also awesome. Voiced by Clancy Brown, awesome. Look at the armor, the spiky axe he has, the double-bladed lightsaber. I mean, this guy kicks something. And on the real minifigure scale, from assassin droids all the way to that medical droid, the commando droids, they're pretty solid. They actually have the same legs as the B-2 battle droids. They have custom molded heads, which can actually take a Clone Trooper helmet if you want to recreate that one scene from the Clone Wars. A little bit gruesome. Clone ARC Trooper Hammer Rancor Battalion Phase 2 is one of the most deluxe LEGO minifigures of all time, especially LEGO Star Wars, but LEGO in general. He is a huge fan favorite with this custom helmet mold that only showed up one time, which is a waste. Thankfully, the Clone ARF Trooper, who also gets an excellent helmet. By the way, 2 awesome helmets for such a small set that they came in. This ARF Trooper helmet has been used elsewhere, and that is awesome. There are many Clone Wars minifigures that I think are really ugly and a bunch of Yoda minifigures that I think are really ugly, but for some reason Clone Wars Yoda just works. Maybe you were seeing him so much in the Yoda Chronicles, but this is my favorite version of Yoda. This C-3PO I actually got in a set in 2021. I got him in Luke's Land Speeder. And imagine my surprise to find out that this version came out in 2016. I mean, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same thing goes for this 2018 version of a Jawa. Honestly, there is pretty much nothing that I would update it. Granted, Jawas are pretty simple characters, especially the heads, but, you know, I think that's perfectly serviceable. In hindsight, I probably should have put the Kashyyyk battle droid with the other battle droids earlier in the collection. This is a specific one, came out in 2019, but I guess I just wanted to highlight how much they haven't changed. This one has printing, but everything about it is pretty much identical to the 1999 battle droids that came out. How cool is that? 2019's Princess Leia is one of the very few original trilogy characters that I feel like really has gotten an upgrade in the modern era. I think the skirt piece looks excellent, the face print looks excellent, the hair is really cool. When I first got back into adult collecting, my mom got me this Klatooinian Raider off Amazon, and I thought he was fake for the longest time, until I took a deep dive and realized, no, he's real. If you guys have been watching this series, you know that I don't keep a whole lot of sets sealed, but this 20th anniversary Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be one of the exceptions. I just think the way that he comes in this packaging is too perfect not to just display on the wall. This version of Kylo Ren, I'll be perfectly honest, I bought because he was cheap. He came in a little microfighter. This is the Rise of Skywalker version, and I much prefer the version with the hood and the head inside of it, but I bought this one, and I guess I could use the armor for fantasy minifigures. Tusken Raiders are an interesting one because I remember playing the Complete Saga video game and thinking that that was what the minifigure versions of Tusken Raiders were going to look like. This is a huge upgrade from that. The custom molded head looks great. The year is 2020. The Disney has realized that Mandalorians are the coolest thing ever, and we're going to start getting a lot of them from the Mandalorian TV show. My wife customized this one. These are all from the Mandalorian Battle Pack that came out. These are just random members of the Watch from the Mandalorian TV show, and I think it's cool that they created these. It's not an army buildable battle pack at all, because they're all like super hyper individualized figures, but I think it's just a strange anomaly that this came out, and I love it for that. It's been a long time since the prequel era Obi-Wan has been on this list, so I figured in the year of our Lord 2020 that I would run out and I would pick up the Duel on Mustafar set. This Obi-Wan looks excellent. This Anakin looks excellent. I love that they have one that has the Sith eyes. For a while, these were my only versions of these characters in the modern era with all the scorch marks. There are two really cool things about 2020's Luke Skywalker with the poncho. One is the poncho, obviously, and the second is the printing underneath. If you look at his legs, there's gold printing down there, which makes this an excellent minifigure for customs. And speaking of custom minifigures, here is the Crimson Dawn version of Darth Maul. He has a third-party Darksaber mold that I bought because they didn't have one at the time. And 2020 was also the year of the 501st Clone Trooper Battle Pack. There's been a lot of weirdness around this set in the LEGO Star Wars community, I'll be perfectly honest, but you cannot deny that the minifigures are excellent. Look at these Jet Troopers, look at the original, oh my gosh, well not the original I suppose, but this is kind of what I view as the new modern standard for Clone Troopers. They have the updated Temuera Morrison head underneath, they have a helmet shape and a helmet print that kind of bridges the gap between the Revenge of the Sith version and the Clone Wars version. And I bought a bunch of these sets. This was the first time that I had to like track down sets. I was tracking shipments. It was so cool. This is surprisingly an emotional experience as I'm going through a bunch of these minifigures because it brings me back to that time. Clone Wars Season 7 was airing, and so we got this version of Mandalorian Ahsoka, which is incredible, and the first Ahsoka we'd gotten in a really long time. She looks awesome. We also, along with her, we got her 332nd Company Clone Troopers. This just felt like such a time of hope when the rest of the world was kind of falling apart. We got some, well, never mind. Here's an assassin droid. This is an upgrade, I suppose, from the original ones. He certainly is taller and has a print. And IG-11 is a better character in general, but I'm still not a fan of these brick-built figures. I think of the Imperial Scout Trooper as just the definition of a well-made figure. He's nothing to write home about, but he does have dual molding in his helmet, and he has black arms for some color variation on the figure. He looks good. You know who doesn't look good is this version of the Mandalorian. First off, why did we ever settle for an unprinted head underneath? I guess we didn't know what he looked like, but still, whatever. The helmet is just all misprinted. The armor looks good, but God, that helmet. NIL8 is this droid's name, and I've recorded this twice, and it is only listening back to it that I realized that his name is Annihilate. That's incredible. Best droid. Baby's first modern Imperial Stormtrooper, and I think these guys look terrible. I think, you know, it's not a hot take to think that this Stormtrooper helmet is more like the Family Guy version than anything else. I really hope they change it, though, at some point. Soon. Which is so strange because this Imperial TIE Fighter pilot's helmet is excellent. The molding is pretty much perfect, and I think that the printing detail on it is really kind of metal. We're going through this list of minifigures chronologically by year that they came out, and I didn't realize that the Clone Trooper Commander came out almost a full year before the Shiny. I guess this one came in the UCS gunship, but I got two of them in the blister pack that had the other Shiny Clone Troopers, which we'll look at in a sec. But before we do, we'll look at Baby's first Boba Fett. I really, for whatever reason, wasn't into Boba Fett as a character until Season 2 of The Mandalorian, so I was really stoked to get this version with the darker green armor. It's really a shame that they screwed up the jetpack and the helmet, though. I don't understand why they're not dark green, and I hope they make a better version soon. Speaking of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, these Dark Trooper minifigures bring me right back to that time. I mean, talk about getting some awesome tie-in minifigures and sets from a currently airing Star Wars show. I think it's interesting that the armor is the same print as the torso, but I guess it gives you customizability. I don't know why you'd ever take off this armor. Maybe you could use it for custom figures. Still, these Dark Troopers are really cool, and this was an awesome tie-in set getting this Dark Trooper attack. And like I was talking about earlier, Mandalorians in general were super in, so they were going back and looking at their older Mandalorians. This is Gar Saxon. I think this helmet mold was like one of the coolest things that LEGO's ever done. Bo-Katan Kryze also came in the same set. I've given her some third-party blasters to match that Mandalorian style. This set was awesome and apparently has skyrocketed in value since I bought it. The third minifigure is the Mandalorian Loyalist. This is another one of those unprinted helmet Mandalorians, which I think is not my favorite, but it's kind of cool. And throughout this video, keep an eye out because we're going to be tracking the evolution from the original 2008 Death Watch Mandalorian up to the Mandalorian Loyalist and going forward. Mandalorian is the word of the day. Here's another version of Din Djarin. This version has a jetpack and has his longer rifle, and I still think that helmet is butt ugly. This version, on the other hand, is just about perfect. I'm just kidding. The helmet's still bad, but that scarf, I don't know, man, it's so cute. Look how cute it is. This one came in the advent calendar along with little baby Christmas sweater Grogu, which is ironically the only Grogu minifigure that I have to this day. I still don't have a normal version. I just haven't gotten one. So it's just Christmas sweater, Grogu, and Din Djarin. And of course, with such an incredible mold for the helmet for Gar Saxon, we're going to use it again for the armorer. I personally am of the opinion that I think her face print, or her helmet print, is a little squished in the front, but whatever. Here is Paz Vizsla. Paz gets a really cool gun and a backpack and an armor piece. I've actually given this minifigure a custom helmet addition to kind of make him more show accurate. I don't even know what that little antenna piece is on his helmet, but I found one third party that I think looks really good. Part of why this era is so sentimental to me is that this is when my wife and I first started dating. She gave this clone trooper this extra little, I don't know, she called it a radio piece, but that's now her clone trooper. And it's wild to think that it's been, 5 years since these came out? These are the shiny Phase 1 clone troopers, and I think they're pretty much perfect. Speaking of perfect, this is Luke Skywalker Jedi Master, the only Luke Skywalker that's not from a movie, and obviously it's meant to be a version of the Return of the Jedi version, which we looked at earlier. Here's the two of them side by side. You can see just the general evolution of LEGO's design philosophy. We have a lot more detail in the torso prints, face prints, head prints. We have back prints now. This is absolutely an upgrade in every way, except the chrome lightsaber hilts. This one's only a minifigure by some very loose definitions of the word, but most inventories counted as one, so we will gloss over it. This is the probe droid from the advent calendar. And this is an excellent demonstration of minifigure double standards, because this is also a droid, but gosh, I will stand for no R2-D2 slander. This is the version with the back printing, by the way, too, which I think makes it an awesome upgrade. This one came in both the Dark Trooper attack and with the R2-D2. The set that 2022's Mace Windu Clone Wars version came in is just such a strange anomaly to me. But this minifigure is incredible. I never thought that we would get a Clone Wars Mace Windu with arm printing, but he looks great. And he came with some wild clone troopers. These are the 187th Legion clone troopers, which if you didn't know, this version's the airborne version. If you didn't know that these minifigures, these clone troopers are not canon. These are, I guess, a version from Legends or a fan version or whatever, but they're not in the current Disney canon. But they're purple, and purple's my favorite color, and so I just had to get them. I will stand for no BD1 slander either. I can't wait to someday get the Imperial Star Destroyer or just the Cal Kestis from it so that I can have my BD-1 and my Cal Kestis standing right next to each other. But I love him. Look at him. Omega's a really interesting example of a minifigure that was considered desirable and valuable because they came in an exclusive set, being made available for much cheaper. We'll see some versions of this later, but just put a pin in that. And of course, we have to pair her with Taun We. Granted, we don't have a Nala Se minifigure, but getting a Taun We minifigure is just crazy. I remember when this was announced, this was the biggest deal. The head being all one molded, I guess dual molded piece, looks awesome. I could kind of take or leave this Attack of the Clones style Obi-Wan. I guess I'm not a huge fan of the way that his robes are fully printed on. I think I would have preferred him have a cape of some sort, but this is the year of Obi-Wan. We'll see a lot more of him coming up. And, of course, his droid, R4P17, my personal favorite astromech droid. No back printing, though, so that's a downgrade. The Inquisitors that came out in 2022 are kind of a mixed bag. On the one hand, it's really great to get a new Grand Inquisitor. On the other hand, his face is not my favorite. Same kind of goes for the Fifth Brother. I mean, the original Rebels Fifth Brother and Grand Inquisitor are classics. I just feel like this one, his face just looks so placid. Reva, on the other hand, is perfect. I mean, she's fine. She looks exactly like she does in the show. This is a great representation. I love that hairpiece, and I love giving the Inquisitor lightsaber just one blade on. And even though he came out in a more recent set than all the others, I'm going to include Merrick in here. He just recently was revealed to be the first brother back when he was a living Inquisitor, and his helmet and armor combo looks awesome. So it's just really cool to have all the Inquisitors standing right next to each other. And of course, we got our good guys, our bad guys. Here's Ben Kenobi on the other side to oppose them. I really like this hairpiece, and I really like the cloth poncho. I like that it hangs off at an angle. I think it's a little baggy, though. That's my least favorite thing. Tala Durith is the Imperial captain who betrays the Empire and helps out Obi-Wan in the TV show. I think that this figure doesn't capture her really especially well, but it's cool to have another Imperial officer. On the other hand, Ned B. Loader Droid is just like, what an incredible custom piece to exist, an incredible one-off minifigure. It's so baffling to me when LEGO spends so much money creating massive custom molds like this just for a one-time minifigure that will never be seen again. And like I said, 2022 is the year of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obviously, the show came out and all of these sets are coming out with the show. So here is just another Obi-Wan minifigure. And here they all are standing right next to each other. Here's the one from the duel set, the one from the Inquisitor Scythe, and the one from the prequel era Jedi ship. And like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of the modern Darth Vader, but this one is an exception. This is the one specifically from Obi-Wan who has the burnt Anakin face underneath, and I just think that that looks incredible. I think that the helmet, I will always feel like the helmet's looking up at an angle, but look at how detailed the dual-sided printing is on this head. This is a great minifigure, and if I'm going to have a modern Darth Vader, for comparison, here's the normal one. I got this one in the Darth Vader mech set. So, you know, you can kind of see everything about them is pretty much the same, except for the head underneath. And to clarify, the reason that I don't like this modern Darth Vader in comparison to the old one is I just feel like the helmet is always looking up slightly at an angle, as opposed to the old one just like looked straight forward. I just feel like this is a downgrade. What is not a downgrade is this Commander Cody minifigure. This is a character that we've been waiting for ages before this one came out. He has a custom head compared to the other clone troopers, and this is the introduction of helmet holes. As you can see on Cody, it looked really nice. As you can see on the newer minifigures, not so much. We'll do some comparisons soon, but these are the 212th minifigures, the 212th clone troopers that came with the ATTE. I think on the whole, they look great. When they have the visor attachment, they look excellent. Here's an example. Here's the Phase 2 clone gunner who also has that visor attachment. And truly, like, when the attachments are being used, I think they look great. The problem is when, for example, here is a 501st Legion officer. I added a custom comma to him. He only has the rangefinder on one side, and I think the helmet hole looks weird on the other side. Here is a 501st clone heavy trooper. Here's a visor. Again, this one looks fine. And I think that they kind of know that there's an issue because they've been prioritizing minifigures that have either the visor or like this, the macro binoculars attachment that goes on the sniper troopers. So I think that they know, and I think that they'll come out with a redesign at some point soon. These are some, so I have two of this 501st Specialist Battle Pack, and so I started getting a little creative with them. That's the commander, or the officer. Here's another regular heavy trooper. This is one of my custom heavy troopers. I decided to make him somewhat of an engineer, so he has a little stubby blaster. I think he's cute. And here is another heavy trooper. I decided to give this one two giant guns, kind of almost Wrecker style, where he's just like going nuts with his guns. And here's a sniper. This one is also going nuts with guns, but in a very different direction. He has two very overblown sniper rifles. I guess that's a regular DC-17 on his back. Anyway, these are all my my specialist 501st troopers, and I love them. Obi-Wan, Mandalorian, we're bouncing back and forth. But finally, we have a Mandalorian figure that is awesome, that is pretty much perfect. We finally have the Pedro Pascal head underneath. We have a helmet where the whole print has been adjusted. You can see the visor is physically up higher as well as having the lines up top. And oh joy, a super original, we have a blue Mandalorian. This is the Mandalorian Fleet Commander from the Mandalorian TV show. He is, I believe, the most recent version of a Mandalorian. Here we have him compared to the original Death Watch. You can really see the similarities, especially in their chest armor print. And to face off against that Mandalorian Fleet Commander, we have the Imperial TIE Interceptor pilot. She has a female headpiece underneath to show representation in our bad guys, and we love to see it, I guess. Here she is compared to the regular TIE Fighter pilot from before. I actually think that this one's a bit of a downgrade. You can see the printing, the metal printing on the earlier one. She also has her own astromech droid. This is R2E6. Weird, I guess, that I have as many evil astromech droids as I do good guys. And now that we're into Boba Fett, we've burst open the flood dams. This is the Boba Fett specifically from the Boba Fett mech, and I think for a little minifigure that you get in a $15 set, this is pretty excellent. Comparing it briefly to the older version, you can see that the helmet is still the same sand green color, which is what specifically disappointed me about the repainted version. And here we have an Imperial Stormtrooper, identical to the previous versions, except it has a female head underneath. Representation in our bad guys, I guess, is always good. In 2023, we finally got updates to the 332nd Company clone troopers. Here's a jet trooper from the battle pack that they came in. You can see that the head is exactly the same, the helmet is exactly the same, except they now have helmet holes to accommodate the accessories. In some cases, this works. This is Clone Captain Vaughn. He's a specific minifigure that has a specific visor. This is the same thing we were talking about before. I think that some of it's a little overblown, but you can for sure see this is the new version, and if you compare it to the old version, you can for sure see that there is a distinct lumpiness to the new style helmets, and it doesn't look as good. I think that there's got to be a better solution, and I'm sure that they'll come up with one eventually, just so that they can sell us more. This Rebel Fleet Trooper is new to 2023. I honestly could not tell you what is new about it from the older version. I just know that it's been a long time since we've had a Rebel Fleet Trooper on our store shelves, so it's cool to get him. We even get two. Remember when I was talking about Yodas that I think are really ugly? Yeah, I don't know. This modern head mold for Yoda, I don't think that it really captures the spirit of him. It might be more accurate, but personally I think that the Clone Wars one is better. Even though I get the one is supposed to be live action, whatever, puppet CGI, and the other is Clone Wars, I just like the Clone Wars one more. We're going to hit through a couple of brick-built minifigures here because they count in regular inventory systems. This is the pit droid in his holiday outfit. I think he's adorable. My favorite, though, is the Christmas Gonk droid. I kid you not, I built this one out of the advent calendar that it came in, and it has stayed built. He comes out every year as a regular Christmas decoration because we love him so much in our house. This Princess Leia is a really interesting anomaly because this is the version that came in the advent calendar, and she is identical to the version that came in the much more expensive Endor diorama set. The only difference is she doesn't have a helmet. 2023 is the first time that I got one of the LEGO Star Wars Advent calendars, and this is the Emperor Palpatine in a holiday sweater. I kind of want to go back and collect all these. I think it'd be fun to get a full collection of all the Christmas holiday sweater minifigures. Like this Ewok and holiday outfit. I mean, this figure new goes for about $5, which I think is so funny because he's just a small figure, but because he only came out in this one thing, and I don't know, he's adorable. It feels like since the Disney acquisition of Star Wars, there's been a new thing that's come out every year that LEGO comes out with new sets for. This is the year of Ahsoka, so we have Huyang here, we also have the Ahsoka Tano from Ahsoka. I wish they gave it a different name other than Ahsoka, but this minifigure looks excellent. She has arm printing, she has toe printing, she has clear lightsabers. Sabine as well comes in the same set. I'm not a huge fan of the hair that they gave her for this minifigure. I wish they kind of had something better, but it's better than her Rebels figure. Taking a quick Clone Wars themed detour, here we have Padme Amidala from the Clone Wars. I think this is a huge upgrade over the previous Clone Wars version of this figure that we got in this outfit. We also have Commander Fox. I've taken the liberty of adding a waist cape to this minifigure because, like so many of the clone commanders that have printed ones, I think that it's just sad. Next up, we have the Clone Shock Troopers, the Coruscant Guards. These have come in a bunch of sets now. They started in the Coruscant Guard gunship, they came in the Clone Trooper Battle Pack, and now they're coming in 2026 in a $15 mech set. Do I recommend that set? I don't know. I think that there are better places to get it, but it is a cool figure, and I'm glad that we're getting them. Next up, we have Chancellor Palpatine, also from the Coruscant Guard gunship, in his skirt outfit. I think this is a good minifigure, although I'm not a huge fan of that hairpiece, but I do love that he's a sinister face on the back. Rounding out the last of the Ahsoka sets that I have, this is Lieutenant Beta? Yeah, Lieutenant Beta. Oh my gosh, Beta Fish. I get it. Okay. We also finally have an updated Chopper. We haven't had this minifigure in such a long time. This one finally has back printing. I'm not a huge fan of the tile up top, but I have one from the Ghost and one from the buildable Chopper. Jason Syndulla is a funny one because he's super inaccurate. He's supposed to have green hair according to the show and Rebels, and when this minifigure was released, we wondered if he was going to have brown hair in the show, and he just didn't. First Officer Hawkins is a pretty unremarkable minifigure. I do really like his hairpiece though, super useful for custom minifigures, and also specifically custom clones with unique haircuts. Hera Syndulla is the obvious standout minifigure of this set. We haven't gotten one since we got the original Ghost set, and now we have a remake. The printing on the back of the Leku looks awesome, the printing on the top of her head is great. And 2023 was the year of getting minifigures that people have been clamoring about for a long time. Here's another one that I added a comment to. This is Phase 2 Captain Rex. There's a lot of controversy behind this one. If you didn't follow it at the time, he came in a super expensive UCS set, and then later came in a $12 set, which really made a lot of investors mad. Personally, I think Captain Rex is such a popular character, he should be widely available, and I really appreciate this. We also finally got a shiny Phase 2 Clone Trooper. These, for whatever reason, are just one of my favorite minifigures of all time. I like the 2013 ones as well, but the plain white versions of Clone Troopers that are just like blank canvases begging to be customized with armor, with attachments, with, when I was a kid, I would draw on these, and I know plenty of other people drew, painted, whatever on these Clone Troopers, and I think that just the shiny Phase 2 Clone Troopers are incredible. It is a shame that it's taken this long to get a new version. We haven't gotten a version since the 2013 ones, and those are very, very expensive and hard to find. If you're somebody who's into army building, this is a great opportunity. As you can see, I have amassed quite a few. And as promised, we are returning to the Super Battle Droids. This is the 2024 remold. Their heads are slightly narrower. They also have a little pockmark on their left side. Here you can see them compared to the old versions. And while I don't think that they were screaming for an update, they do certainly look better, and from what I hear, they're significantly less brittle than the old versions as well, which is excellent because as I was army building all of my Phase 2 shiny troopers, I also got a lot of these super battle droids from the battle pack that they came in. Darth Malak is the first of the 2024 25 years of LEGO Star Wars anniversary figures, and he looks excellent. I kind of wasn't expecting them to ever make a version of Darth Malak like this. He's kind of gruesome if you look at his under chin mold piece, and that custom chin mold does indeed look excellent. He is a fine addition to my collection. Since stormtroopers aren't clone troopers, they can be anyone under the helmet, and LEGO has been taking advantage of this, putting different head prints underneath the stormtrooper molds. We had a generic white man, and here's a black woman. So I guess why not? To face off against the stormtroopers, we have Captain Antilles, looking with this head print a little scared, but there he could be a little bit more confident on the back right before he gets choked out by Darth Vader. But let's be honest, nobody was buying that set for the Rebel Troopers. Everyone was buying them for this, ARC Trooper 5s. He is an excellent minifigure. I've added a waist cape to him as well because he needed it. I mean, look at him compared to the ARC Trooper from however many years prior. I mean, that one has a custom helmet, which this one does not. It has a waist cape, which this one does not. I mean, this one's pretty good, and I like that they kept the backpack design the same. And he does get a custom head print, which is excellent. He looks just, I mean, he's 5s. He's perfect. And on the 25th anniversary bandwagon, here is the Darth Maul, the recreation of the original 1999 one. And now, here he is. You can see the 25th anniversary print on the back. While I did not have the 1999 version, I do have that Darth Maul pen that I was talking about. And here you can see the comparison between the two. It's not identical, but I don't know if that's just because my version is actually from 2008 or if it's just because of a change in LEGO's design philosophy. They're pretty close though, and it's pretty cool to see the really old version and a really new version of the same figure. Also from the Phantom Menace, ooh, good segue, I guess, we have Anakin Skywalker as a child. This is the version that came out in 2024 with the Sith Interceptor. I think that he looks fine. He also came with another Darth Maul. This is now a lot of Darth Mauls that we've looked at this point. This is the Phantom Menace version. This one's controversial because he doesn't have pupils. He has those like yellow Sith eyes. And compared to the older version, I gotta say, it is kind of a downgrade. Qui-Gon Jinn, on the other hand, is quite the upgrade. There's a version of this figure which I do not have, in which the beard is printed as reddish brown instead of the dark brown that I have. That version is extremely expensive, for no good reason other than collectors something, I guess. I think this one looks great. Saw Gerrera is the last of the 25th anniversary LEGO Star Wars minifigures that I have, and while the green armor I think is not the best, it's the closest they could get, and my gosh, this cloth cape is so unique, one of a kind, excellent, beautiful. And you probably thought we were done with blue Mandalorians. No, we're never done with blue Mandalorians, but at least this one's a girl. Still a blank face underneath, but this is the Mandalorian Night Owl, as appears in the Mandalorian TV show, and here is her counterpart. This is Mandalorian Warrior. They both have very, very similar chest prints, and they're virtually the same on the back. But when you compare them, here's the Mandalorian Fleet Commander from earlier. Here's the Mandalorian Loyalist from even earlier than that, and here's the Death Watch Trooper from before that. Here is the full evolution of blue Mandalorians. But now there's some new Mandalorian baddies on the horizon. These are the Imperial Commandos. Blank faces underneath, but this helmet mold is new and super unique, and I kind of hope that we see it in more figures coming up. It also has this really interesting backpack piece that I've never seen before. I think the tile's a little bit of a cop-out, but these look great. I would love to army build these if I could, and I'd love to see them used for other minifigures moving forward. As we're moving towards the end of my LEGO Star Wars collection, this is Ahsoka Tano from Ahsoka. These are starting to get into sets that I've actually built since I've had this YouTube channel. Some of these, like this set, you can see me build live on stream over here. Here's this Ahsoka compared to the last one. This is Ahsoka the white versus Ahsoka the gray, let's say. Ezra Bridger as well comes in this set. I do not like the blue eyes on this. I think that they look super creepy, but a dual-sided head is always welcome, and the chainmail underneath looks excellent. Thrawn. Finally another Thrawn. Let's all call him affordable Thrawn. There are still some things that are a little wonky about him compared to the previous version, but I think that he's a definite upgrade over the last one. Morgan Elsbeth. I didn't mention the Darksaber piece when it came out, but Morgan Elsbeth now has a transparent green version of the Darksaber piece to represent the Blade of Talzin, which looks awesome. And these Night Troopers as well. While, again, I still don't like the Stormtrooper design, at least the helmet, the zombie head underneath, and the unique markings. We'll see more of these coming up, but every single Night Trooper has different unique markings on them, and I think that that's an excellent attention to detail. Well, almost all of them do. These are the only two that are identical. Here is the Night Trooper Death Trooper, also with the zombie head underneath. Great that we're finally getting... Oh my gosh, I wonder if that's the same helmet mold as was in the Imperial Commandos. They look great, and it's great to finally have Death Troopers on store shelves, even if they're a little bit, zombified. Here's the last of the Night Troopers. This one has a gray helmet and different chest markings, just adding a little bit of variety. So if you were to army build these, you can see that their red wrappings are slightly different. 2025 also brought LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. Here's the Akbar Trooper. This doesn't do much for me other than it does give me a clone body, which means that I could theoretically build a clone trooper. Jedi Bob, on the other hand, is just about perfect. This is every LEGO Star Wars historian's dream to get a new Jedi Bob minifigure. I mean, he's basically canonized, which is really cool. He has a nicer cloth cape. He's updated with the reddish brown and the dark bluish gray, which are much less brittle than the original versions. Now I just have to go find myself an old version, and that is certainly going to be an adventure. He comes with his droid Servo, SRVO, and unfortunately I'm still working on getting more of the Rebuild the Galaxy sets. Here's another LEGO set that I built live on stream. Here is Ahsoka Tano as a Padawan. This is great. I love that we're finally getting her as a new version. She has the shorter Leku, which is a great part usage since we already had those from the Ahsoka TV show. And we get a remake of R7A7, her astromech droid, which is lovely. We haven't seen this one in a while. We also get a remake of Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars. This one's very, very similar to the scorched up version that I was looking at earlier. It's just not scorched. So now I have just a cleaner Anakin in my collection, which I am not complaining about. Here you can see the differences between the two. They're pretty negligible, but this one is on dark brown instead of black. Less evil, I guess. 2025 also saw the release of the ARC 170, which is my favorite Star Wars ship. Here is Clone Trooper Pilot Oddball, one of our beloved named Clone Troopers. And here is Clone Pilot Captain Jag, also one of our named clone pilots. The ARC 170 is one of my favorite ships, and I never got the older versions. Here is just a generic Phase 2 pilot, which interestingly looks like neither of the V-Wing pilots that we looked at earlier in this episode. Last and, yeah, kind of least, is their astromech droid R4P44. I would have loved to have gotten a Jedi in this set, just some kind of Jedi, any Jedi would have done. But here we go, 3 clones and a droid. I wish I could lie and tell you that this Boba Fett was from the UCS Jango Fett Starship or Slave 1, whichever way you want to call it. Fortunately, that is out of my price range, so if you want to see me review that kind of thing, please like, comment, and subscribe so I can take a look at some of those more expensive LEGO sets. That's not to say that I didn't have my share of fun on May the 4th this past year. This is the Clone Cadet that came out in 2025. He was part of a gift with purchase that came out if you spent a certain amount of money. I don't remember what it was. I bought 2 of them, actually, and I opened one of them and left the other one sealed in boxes. Kind of just a nice little collector's item for me, so I can have my cake and eat it too. These guys look great. 2025's Plo Koon is probably the greatest upgrade of any LEGO minifigure that I've seen recently. The hard plastic on this head looks so much better than the rubber. And here he is. Well, he's not the UCS version of Jango Fett. This is the version that came in the Playscale model. He is identical except for he doesn't have printed arms. And honestly, I'm okay with that for the moment. He has this new rangefinder piece, which looks excellent and is the first time this piece has gotten an upgrade since it came out in, 2008? The head looks awesome underneath. And you know what? I kind of want to use that rangefinder piece. Let's try it on Captain Rex here, and we'll also try it on ARC Trooper 5s as well. I think that this is a definite upgrade. If you have extras, and you should, because this one comes with extras, you should put it on all of your figures that could use it. And last but certainly not least, this is Lama Su. Lama Su also came with the Playscale Jango Fett Starship, whatever we're calling it these days. I think that this one looks excellent. I was shocked that we got 1 Kaminoan. I'm now doubly shocked that we got 2. And not only did we get 2 Kaminoans, but this one has different head mold. Here's Ton Wee. These are like, I guess they're not completely different, but in terms of molding plastic, they show an attention to detail that gives me hope for the future of the theme. I talked in episode 4 about how Ninjago was difficult to quantify for me because of how much it has meant to me over the years and how it has represented different things at different points in my life. LEGO Star Wars is like that times a million. It was the first LEGO that I ever was given as a very small child, and it's kind of the thing that got me into Star Wars, not the other way around. From the video games to the battle packs, LEGO Star Wars was a huge part of my childhood. Then, when I grew up and began collecting as an adult, Star Wars was again the theme that drew me back. I mentioned earlier that when the 501st Battle Pack was released, I hunted for it, tracking shipments to stores so that I might catch one on a restock and trying to army build for the very first time. It got me in touch with the online LEGO Star Wars community, and while I've moved on from some members who hold values I have no desire to align with, it started the spark in my heart. I collected and collected, building gray base plates into battlefields, expanding those into huge dioramas. That diorama accompanied me as I moved in with my wife, it took up space in our living room, and building it improved my ability as a builder. When I had outgrown it and felt I could do better, I disassembled it and decided to film the process, which brings me to you. LEGO Star Wars is the reason I started a YouTube channel, and while I probably would say it's my second favorite theme behind Ninjago, I am genuinely grateful for the connections I've made with you while discussing the theme. Even as prices continue to be a problem for the hobby in general, but especially Star Wars, these sets are some of the coolest to collect and display. LEGO Star Wars isn't just LEGO history, it's my history, and I love that I get to share it with you. Thank you for coming along on this adventure with me, building every single minifigure I own. It's been trying, I won't lie. I have a lot of minifigures, more than the ups and downs of life might be willing to accommodate. That being said, it has been the most incredible trip down memory lane, looking through the CMFs, space, superheroes, sci-fi, fantasy, Ninjago dimensions, and so much more. If you've just tuned in to this episode to see some cool Star Wars figures, I would encourage you to check out the rest of the videos in the series. I've put a lot of work into them. Seriously, I have so many minifigures that I limited myself to a maximum of 10 seconds of screen time per figure, and I still ended up with 6 videos totaling almost 2.5 hours. If you stuck around through all that, I'm extremely grateful. If you've come all this way and still aren't, please consider subscribing so that we can hang out and talk LEGO more. And even if not, I hope that you've enjoyed my rambles. I'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.